and our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
Fuck the prime time, bitch!
Monmouth in the flesh.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
Gotta return some videotapes.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to the It Slays podcast. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
And it's stainless steel sterling silver, Mike.
And last but not least, it's Colton.
And we are back and impressed. I cannot believe that a tongue twister like that just came out of Mike's mouth. First take.
One take.
One take.
And I know, I was actually thinking, how many times am I going to have to say this? And is it going to be like 2 solid minutes of Ro having to edit around, chop all my words together into like a word salad? But I did it, and I'm very proud of myself.
I'm just glad you remembered to come in second this time, because that was an issue for the first like 6 months when I joined the podcast, so...
I'm so used to going last. It was, I'm really, guys, it only took like the better part of a year, but I'm finally starting to like learn.
We're almost there.
Give me time. It takes me about 5 years to get used to things, so.
So, let's get into what we have been consuming, what media we've been watching, listening to, reading. I don't know. It's been beautiful out, so I feel like maybe it's been tough for some of us. I mean, as I look at my list, I'm like, it hasn't been that tough. Let's start with you, Colton.
Dude, I was literally just talking before we started recording about, like, I don't really know how much I want to discuss for this, and you throw it right to me right away. You and I, we saw The Black Phone within the last week or so for Now Slaying.
We did.
And obviously you can listen to that for our full discussion, but I think it's safe to say we were both pretty disappointed in the movie overall. And I actually bumped down my rating probably about 2 or 3 hours after we finished recording. I went ahead and gave it just a 3-star, which would be an okay. But I thought it was pretty good overall, but a step down from some of the other stuff I've seen by Scott Derrickson, so I was disappointed. Also, I checked out Mad God, which we were actually supposed to do for Now Slaying, but I had family in town, so I couldn't really make time in the schedule. Did you wind up watching that after, Rowan?
No, I ended up not watching it yet, and now I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I've heard kind of very mixed reviews on it.
Oh, really? Okay, well, I really enjoyed it. It's very much a vibe movie, though. It's basically like 90 minutes of no dialogue, just kind of like a spiral like into chaos and creating something from the chaos. It feels like a bunch of like little vignettes with gross stop animation and whatnot. I think you'd probably really enjoy it. I watched it with a couple of my friends, and I think most of us were positive on it. There was one guy who was like very much bored by the movie because, like I said, there basically is no plot. It's left a lot up to your mind, like, okay, what is the symbology here? What's the metaphor? You know, is it saying something? Does it have anything to say at all? You know, so it's kind of left up to the viewer to kind of make something from all the chaos. But yeah, I very much enjoyed it, and I think it's very obvious that it's a labor of love that would have took a long time to make. One of my friends was saying for like one sequence that's probably about 15 seconds long, he took over 3 years to make this one little section. So yeah, it's, you know,
Jesus.
Yeah, I think you should watch it anyways. You might not love it. I thought it was pretty great overall, but it's unlike anything else I've seen. So I would recommend it. And then on another level, very different from Mad God, is a movie that's kind of been gaining in popularity the last couple of months. It's a Tollywood movie, which is basically like Indian Hollywood, but Telugu. It's like a different language than Bollywood. And it's called RRR. I think it stands for like Rise, Roar, Revolt. I think that's what the titles say. Anyways, it's by a very like well-known filmmaker over there called S.S. Rajamouli. And basically where I said Mad God is like 90 minutes long and it's just like very contained, not much of a story. It's very much a vibe movie. This is like what if we did everything to excess? It's like 3 hours and 10 minutes long. There's dudes fighting like tigers. There's a part where they like throw a flaming motorcycle. It's almost like their version of a superhero movie, but with like song and dance numbers and like a whole bunch of like cheesiness to it. It's really fun. It's
that
one of those
fun.
Yeah, it's like one of those movies you want to watch with like a group of friends. I stumbled upon his previous movies like probably about 4 or 5 years ago, kind of as a joke. It was just like Netflix recommended this movie to me, and I think it was called Bahubali or Bahubali, and I turned it on while I was downloading like, I feel like it was The Master, like P.T. Anderson's The Master. And after watching like 20 minutes of Bahubali, I was just completely like enthralled, and I had like, I couldn't look away. Like in the beginning, it was because it was so silly and cheesy and like almost terrible. But then after like 30 to 40 minutes, I started loving it. And I wound up watching Bahubali 1 and 2 within like a 24-hour period, and they're like 3 hours each as well.
Wow.
So, yeah, I think RRR is pretty good. It's probably not as good as Bahubali 1 and 2 to me, but yeah, I'd still highly recommend them. And if anyone out there is listening and likes to watch 3-hour-long Indian cinema, check out RRR. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've been watching lately. What about you, Mike?
Oh, my usual trash, my Drag Race, my Real Housewives. I gotta keep up on Beverly Hills because they're back on weekly now. But the only other thing really, which Colton kind of like lightly roasted me for, which I was glad about, was that I finally watched something other than trash and the movie for a recording, which was that Netflix documentary series was on the homepage. So, it's a real hidden gem. That one, Keep Sweet, Pray, and Obey.
Yeah, we started that.
Yeah, the Warren Jeffs fundamentalist Mormon sect. Oh my god. That's horror related, because that is an absolute fucking horror show. Like, I finished it yesterday, actually. I actually was enjoying it so much in a, like... enjoying it sounds wrong, but I was, like, so enraptured by it and, like, sucked into that world, and it's so well done that, like... But, like, every 5 minutes, I was just, like... legitimately just aghast, at some element of it, and it just kept getting worse and worse and like snowballing. And so I finished it yesterday or the day before. I can't remember. Time has lost all meaning to me. But I really, really, really enjoyed that. I actually was like, I want to hear more. Like they interviewed a lot of the like, former members and stuff of that whole like organization, and I became like very attached to them because they're like, it's just, they're so like as characters in a documentary, like they're so like inviting almost. It sounds weird to say that, but like, I don't know, there's something you just really get drawn into, like their stories, and like it's shot really well, and like they're really human interviews, and I just like, I got totally engrossed with it, and I want to hear more from them, and I want to like hear more of their stories, and I want to know what happened afterwards. So I'm really hoping that they do a like follow up or something, even though I know, that probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But yeah, I loved it. I recommend it to anybody who likes freaky religious real life shenanigans. The last couple episodes were like literally fucking horrifying though, and very triggering. So beware. What about you?
Yeah, I've heard a lot about that one. I've been meaning to watch it myself, and basically everyone said the exact same thing as you, Mike. That like, man, some of the shit that goes on in that, it's absolutely horrifying. So I've got a lot.
Yeah,
of it
and like you think
me,
but you don't. Yeah.
Well, and that was the thing too. Like my friend, she was telling me so much about it, where she probably told me about a dozen different anecdotes, and I was just like, man, I feel like I have the whole thing spoiled for me. But I'll still definitely be checking it out as well. Sorry, Rowan. What else have you been watching? I stepped on your answer.
So, like Colton said, we went and saw The Black Phone. I was a little less hot on it than Colton. I think I only gave it a 2-star on Letterboxd. I rewatched some 5 stars for me. I rewatched Aliens, watched that on VHS, and I actually did that as prep, because if you go, I am featured on the new episode of every horror movie on Netflix. Steven couldn't be there.
Plug.
That's right. So I watched, we reviewed Army of the Dead. So if you go over there, you can hear me rant how Snyder basically just, entire plot and scenes just stole aliens and made it into a zombie movie.
Okay, I was gonna say, because I haven't seen it, but I was thinking, what is the connection? Why did you watch that in... Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can trust Rowan on his Aliens comparison, saying that other movies ripped it off, because he also claimed that Jurassic Park ripped off Aliens a couple of weeks ago, and I still can't really put together the pieces on like what specific. He's like, oh, there were raptors underneath or something. I'm like, what the hell, man? So I don't know. I'd have to rewatch Aliens and Army of the Dead to see it, but I listened to your guys' discussion and it was a good discussion.
Yeah, it was a good time. So go check that out. I rewatched I Love You, Man, which is, one of my favorite Jason Segel, Paul Rudd comedies.
Weirdly underrated, like
very underrated, especially for like just the aspects of like adult males making friends. It's pretty funny and pretty like realistic.
And the older you get, like the more you can appreciate it.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great movie.
And then I rewatched Sleeping with Other People, which in my letterbox, you'll see I made a romantic comedy list, and it is ranked number 1, my all-time favorite romantic comedy. It beats out Nick and Nora just by a hair for me, and basically because of the amazing soundtrack. Sleeping with Other People is just like perfection. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, go see it. It's like super quirky, a great like indie rock soundtrack, and just a little bit different.
I pulled up your top 10 rom-com list, and I have to say, where is When Harry Met Sally? Where is 500 Days of Summer?
I've never seen I've never seen 500 Days of Summer, and I said a couple episodes ago.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I know. And I said a couple.
Did I roast you for that thing? Because I'm about to literally light you on fire.
Well, and I was gonna say, I said a couple episodes ago, I'm not a big Billy Crystal guy. I really don't. He just annoys me. And he's in When Harry Met Sally, isn't he?
Yeah, but Meg Ryan is like so magnetic in that movie that I think if you're a straight man, it's impossible not to just completely fall in love with her in that movie.
That was like the role of her lifetime. Like,
oh my god,
when you think about the role someone's born to play, like it literally makes them a star. Like that is the one.
Yeah,
I'll have to watch it because I'm not a big Meg Ryan guy, but I'm willing to give it a shot. So I'll only talk about it for a second because we gave Colton like an hour last time. So I finally, was a good moviegoer, watched the first Top Gun, and rewatched it, I should say. I've seen the first Top Gun, and then made it to the theater to go see Top Gun Maverick, and everything Colton said, he's not a liar, people. It's probably the best thing I've seen in the theater in like 2 years. It's that good.
I was telling you, man, Top Gun Maverick, it's a movement.
Yeah, it's... it's pretty crazy, and like a lot of I guess like bigger movie reviewers that I respect that are like pretty like art house, pretty artsy fartsy, like everyone just gushing over this, and there's a reason. Like it's really, really good. So that's all I'll say about that. And then the last couple I've been on a kick catching up with Cinema on Cinema, which is like a YouTube and podcast series from Tim Heidecker and Greg Turkington, which is like a perfect, thing where it's very surreal, very like, yeah, they play it straight. It's kind of an ongoing joke for like the last 15 years. They've been doing this skit and have never stopped. But if you're in our business, it's just about two guys that have a movie review podcast and show. And basically, throughout the years, you see the descent of this fake Tim Heidecker go from kind of average man, not very good at reviewing movies, to making his own action movie, to falling in love with like a girl from Japan, then to him converting to a MAGA supporter and committing murder and going on trial for murder. And this all happens in like real time. Like you watch like 10-hour long YouTube videos of fake court scenes of him in court.
Oh, man.
His Twitter, everything's dedicated to it. I'm trying to catch up because he's now switched it to, they now do like a Joe Rogan type podcast where he just like is just a right-wing bro that is Joe Rogan, essentially. So in that spirit, I watched The Comedy, which was a movie he did a little while ago. That I actually really liked. It's just kind of like a very kind of like meta surrealist commentary on like hipster and that just the whole hipster movement. And yeah, it was, I really, really enjoyed it. And then all I've been watching is I started a new show, guys. I finally decided to do some TV. I started watching
a new show or a show that you've watched 8 times already and you're rewatching it.
A new show, and well, it's newer. I think the first season's done. I don't know. It might only be one season. I'm watching The Girl from Plainsville, which Amazon Prime, just marketing work, just make me watch the commercial for a year, and I
love how our Prime is totally different because I've never even heard of this.
I've heard of it. I have no clue what it's about. So go ahead and tell me.
Just like lost.
So it's pretty good. I'm usually pretty dubious. Like, so it's like made by the W Network, and I mean they're tied in with like Hallmark and that kind of stuff. So usually the budgets are pretty low. It stars Elle Fanning.
Okay, I'm into it already.
Yeah. And if you're in the true crime, like, so it's based off the case of Michelle Carter from the States, who was the first person that was convicted for involuntary manslaughter, and it was due to suicide by text, where basically she had like a lot of mental health issues. She was like kind of dating this guy that also had mental health issues. He killed himself, and they found all these text messages of her like telling him to do it for months.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Now I remember the case. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they've redone it. Also has one of Roan's favorites, Chloe Sevigny. It plays the mom in it.
Listen, I'm sold.
It's actually really good. Like, it's just, the budget's just enough. Like, it's not super high production, but like it also doesn't look like a Hallmark Lifetime movie. So there is like some decent production in it. But yeah, that's everything I've been watching. So, it's time. Let's get into the film. This was a Mike pick this week. 2002, American Psycho 2, All American Girl, I think is like the subheading. Am I correct in that?
Is, yeah.
So let's get into the trailer so we can get back to the bio, so we can give this a slay all day rating at the end.
Have you ever been to a psychiatrist before?
No, how does it work?
We have weekly conversations, and together we ask the questions that will lead you to your answers.
I was only 12 years old, and I wasn't gonna let Patrick Bateman ruin my life.
Why don't we stop there?
American Psycho continues.
This girl has no concept of reality.
Angrier. Deadlier. And sexier than ever before.
Ribbed for her pleasure.
She was more obsessed than Dahmer. She's more calculated than Bundy, and certainly more faceless than Bateman. All in all, she killed 8 people. 8 people, which we know of.
American Psycho 2, All American Girl was directed by Morgan J. Freeman and written by Alex Sanger and Karen Craig, and the story is as follows. In order to bolster her resume and pave the way to a prestigious career in the FBI, criminology student Rachel Newman is desperate to land the gig as a teacher's assistant and will do just about anything to obtain it, including killing her classmates. There's a little bit more to it than that, like identity theft and twist endings, and the most dramatic shot of William Shatner falling out of a window. But honestly, I can't really make sense of it all. So yeah, this is American Psycho 2.
Can we do a letterboxd list of all the movies or shows that William Shatner has fallen out of a window of?
There must be more than one because this was iconic. That was definitely the best scene in
this
the
would
movie.
be number one. This would be number one.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So let's talk about, is this our first time watching this, or do we own 3 or 4 copies each? Mike, this was your pick. We'll start with you.
Okay, so this was not my first time watching it. I'm not saying I saw it like right when it came out, even though I'm ancient, but I definitely saw it within a short time span of it coming out. Like, I remember renting it from a Blockbuster. That'll tell you what the time period was, because they were still thriving and carrying things like American Psycho 2, which, you know, you wouldn't find at a gas station out around the bay, as we would say. But yeah, I saw it like years and years ago when we were actually house sitting, or I wasn't house sitting. My friend was house sitting, and we spent like 3 days over there because the house was beautiful and they had like 2 giant dogs. And we were drinking one night and decided to rent a bunch of garbage movies, and this was there, so we were like, oh my god, we love American Psycho. Love the movie, love the book, like, let's get it, love Mila Kunis. And yeah, so that was, I saw it a million years ago. And let me tell you, that was the last time I saw it before rewatching it for now. What about you, Ro?
I don't know if I can honestly say I saw it. I really feel like I did see it, but watching it this time, I don't remember anything from it. So I'm kind of thinking I remember seeing it like in the Blockbusters and stuff like that. Maybe this is one I had rented and never got to, because usually back then I'd rent like 10 movies at a time.
Of course. Yeah.
Maybe it was just one I never saw. So I will honestly say this is the first time I have watched it, or at least think I have watched it. What about you, Colton?
Yeah, this is my first time seeing this. I have heard of it before, mostly because I grew up with a huge crush on Mila Kunis, but also I've seen it listed consistently among like the worst sequels or worst horror sequels of all time. So yeah, I had a passing knowledge of it, but no, I've never seen it. This was my first time.
So we know where we're going to start. Our favorite kill or favorite scene. Colton, we'll start with you.
Dude, it's William Shatner falling out the window.
Like there was going to be any question.
I was sitting here and I was going through my notes because it's been a few days since I watched it. I think I watched this on Friday or Saturday. So I was going through my notes and I was like, shit, I forgot to list my favorite scene. And as I was like typing up the little synopsis or trying to figure it out, the only like thing that I can remember from this movie that left a large impact was me laughing at Will Shatner falling out the window, because it was just the slow build up of like, oh my, is that her necklace? You know, just like Will Shatner putting it all together. And then also when he gets pushed, or like, I don't even know if he's pushed. It's almost like he's compelled to fall backwards.
I think he was just like decided he was walking backwards because he was drunk,
he's like disoriented, right? Like,
yeah.
Oh my, like piecing it all together. And then she like blows him a kiss too, doesn't she? Or winks at him or something. And
she
then
does something to like send him over the edge. Yeah.
Yeah. It almost felt like a spell, like
telekinetic.
Yeah. There was something to it. And he just tumbles out of the window. And oh my god, I cracked up laughing. I think I was half asleep watching the movie at that point, but that scene, it just revitalized me, and then I was ready for the third act. But yeah, just William Shatner falling out of the window and then her just driving around with his corpse for the rest of the movie, and me being like, oh my god, that's actually Will Shatner just having to act like a corpse for the rest of this shitty movie. Yeah, that's my favorite scene / just, oh my god, it's just funny. I don't know. What about you, Mike? What's your favorite scene?
Okay, so I had an idea, and I remember like the scene at the party where Mila comes in and, you know, he's on the stairs, you know, with all the like students like adoring him, and he's being like, oh, Ed Gein and Texas Chainsaw Massacre and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But I actually really liked that because, I don't know, there was like a glamour to it, or a like, you know, attempt at glamour on a $20 budget. But also because it was the most time that like you got to see Mila and Lindy Booth like interact, and I adore both of them. I think they're both really good, and they had really good chemistry, and it's a shame that her character wasn't around for longer, because I just really liked their like kind of like banter with each other. So that was kind of like, that's my favorite scene in terms of like, I think it was probably the only scene in the whole movie that had like decent acting and you kind of forgot you were watching a like Z grade direct-to-video movie. But, like, honestly, other than that, it was the murder with the condom and then she goes ribbed for her pleasure. Like, I was like, you know what? Okay, so I have to say, so this is part of why I love it. It's obviously, like, kind of a corny attempt at, like, you know, your, like, late 80s, early 90s, like, Freddy having catchphrases and, like, you know, stuff you can put in a commercial. So in a way, it's like a really dated thing. But I was also thinking when I watched it this time, I was like, this sort of dialogue is the type of thing that, like, Netflix now throws in their, like, insanely budgeted, like, Ryan Murphy carte blanche series, specifically so that people can make reaction GIFs out of it and spread them all over Twitter and shit. So I kind of, like, think it's so funny because, like, ribbed her like with the condom in her hand saying ribbed for her pleasure. I was like, if that came out now, it would literally, like, be a viral marketing, like, reaction GIF. So I was like, in a way, it's, like, so hideously dated, but also, like, insanely forward-thinking and ahead of its time.
It's, like, accidentally genius.
No, exactly! That's exactly it. It's, like, it's so dumb that it's genius. You know, like, it's so fucking stupid that it becomes brilliant 20 years down the road. Like, literally 20 years later.
I hope they re-release this, give it a re-release, and on the cover, they quote you, and it just says, a forward-thinking and genius film.
Ahead of its time. Lionsgate, I am available for blurbs. It won't cost you anything. Just send me a copy, please. I'm available. I'm free.
Yeah, how about that guy, like, laying down on the bed, discovering that there was a tarp beneath him, and still being like, it's worth it, you know, not leaving? Oh, man.
He's like, it's a piss sheet. Meanwhile, I'm like, this is something you put over your boat on the marina. Like,
yeah.
There's a very specific thing that you put over a mattress if you've got, you know, pee problems. It's not a goddamn boat tarp. Like, but you know what? In a way, it's like, honestly, whose judgment hasn't been clouded when you're about to get some? Like,
that is true. Yeah.
Right?
I'm kind of cheating because my favorite kill scene was also the condom scene.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, okay. I didn't mean to take it away from you.
No, it's okay. It's just iconic, and it was the same reason I chuckled pretty hard at the rib for your pleasure, just because it was so cheesy. I will say the scene you were talking about with Shatner and talking like all the women. I was gonna say my favorite part of that scene was when the woman like walks by her, even though there's like tons of room to get by her, and then hits her and just for no reason just goes, bitch.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's like, get out of the way, bitch. I'm like, okay.
Also, I would like to meet a professor that is, you know, as much of a rock star as
oh man.
Okay, see, that's so funny because the whole time I was watching this, I feel like when I first saw it, I didn't have much experience with this. And now looking back on it after I had done 8 million years of post-secondary, I thought it was realistic at the time. And then years later when I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, this is so stupid. But then when I was rewatching it, I was like, it's still really stupid, and it gives them way more, like, power and influence than they have. But there is, like, a kernel of truth to it, because there is always, like, somebody who, they don't have 10 people swarming them at parties, but there's always, like, some, you know, fucking, you know, cool English prof who always has, like, 3 or 4 girls that take all of his classes, and, like, a gay, and, you know, they're always, like, I have something to say, you know what I mean? So it's, like, obviously a very heightened, exaggerated version of that. So, but I was like, you know, I was looking back on it, I was like, now, looking back at my memory, I do know several people like that, but that was just, like, blown way out of proportion. Like, name one professor. Right, you can't. Name one professor. Who's
also,
still alive.
In those scenarios where you're talking about like the English profs and whatnot, usually the people like fall in love with the prof because of like how genius they are or like how charismatic they are. Will Shatner in this movie, like, I know why he was cast, just because he's like, oh, I'd love to be swarmed by women for the entire movie.
Exactly.
You know, hooking up with a woman like half his age, probably even more than half his age.
Yeah.
But also, the dude, like, the prof isn't smart in this movie. Like, he's there talking about, you know, how media is popularizing serial killers by giving them nicknames. And, like, it's very much like they are far into their class. Like, this would be, like, second class in your first week. They talk about, like, media's impact on serial killers. And it took this bozo, like, 6 months to get there. So, I don't know. He doesn't seem like a genius to me.
But also, like, and I made a note about this, I was like, he's fucking standing on the stairs, and he's supposed to be this, like, you know, seasoned FBI profiler turned educator, and he's standing on the stairs with what is supposed to be the cream of the crop of his, like, criminology program, and, like, spouting off this, Ed Gein was the, you know, inspiration for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which even in 2002 was an old hat, you know what I mean? And also, by the way, it shits in the face of his, you know, because here he is talking about, like, media representations of serial killers, and it's not even, like, journalistic ones. It's literally just fictional takes that are vaguely inspired by a story about a serial killer that someone heard in the 70s, you know? I just thought that was so funny. It's like, really? This is, like, so tacky and... I want to say a real prof would never do that, but the sad thing is they probably would.
So I was gonna say, let's get this out of the way first. So people are probably, you know, if you're watching this is one of those movies that I can definitely see you listening to this episode, and you probably haven't seen this movie. Although get your eyes on it. It's on Tubi for free. That's where I watched it. The free apps are loving this right now.
Is it full of commercials? Like, did you watch this movie and it made it like 3 hours long?
It has commercials in it. It was quite lovely, actually. Tubi running all the Pride commercials right now.
Oh, okay. Now I kind of regret watching it the way that I did. Pirating.
But, yeah, so you might be wondering, American Psycho 2, the sequel. And let me tell you, this is very, very tightly tied in with the first one.
It literally picks up the next day.
Yeah, next day.
Like it's American Psycho 2, the next day could be the subtitle.
Yeah, Christian Bale is great in this movie.
Amazing. He's
almost like should have been nominated for Oscars, like truly.
A little bit weird how he wears his mask like over his nose and eyes, you know, to kind of hide that, you know, that it's clearly him, but, you know, it's a choice.
And the, you know, giant hotel room, spa robe covering his insane physique that he, you know,
worked so hard to
working
achieve,
on.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you can't sense that sarcasm in the air. Yeah, so this was a script that had just been hanging around. This had nothing to do with American Psycho 2. And then they just kind of, Lionsgate said, hey, we need to make some money. Let's dust this script off and tie it in. So we get that intro scene with Patrick Bateman, you know, doing weird non-Patrick Bateman things like a kid. I mean, I think we kind of accepted in the, like, he doesn't really fuck with kids at all in the first one. So I'm not sure. Also, possibly the worst babysitter in movie history. And there's a lot of bad babysitters. But this, you know, Quantico prospect just bringing this child she is babysitting to a serial killer's house for some sort of, you know, online date or something. Just really bizarre. And then, so I was going to say it's probably worth noting that that's the only tie-in with it. Because, you know, there's no way they could keep that thread going throughout the entire thing. I think they name drop a couple times.
I was just about to say, in narration, he's mentioned a couple of times. Before we started recording, you were kind of calling out Mila for, she said she didn't realize that this was supposed to be an American Psycho 2. And that is the reason I believe her, because that first scene could have been filmed at any point. She's not in that scene. Where she starts in the movie, picks up in the elevator. And I think there's like maybe one or two pieces of narration that very much could have just been added after the movie was already filmed. They were like,
Yeah.
"Hey, Mila, we need you to record this line," and she was like, "Okay, all right, I'll just say this." So I think she didn't know it was American Psycho 2 as she was recording it. I think she was just recording like a cheesy slasher, and then basically they were like, "Oh, this is gonna make no money because it's bad and it's not also attached to any other IP," so they just forced it into American Psycho. And I think most of the narration, I feel like, was trying to push it towards that, like make it feel more like American Psycho.
Yeah.
That's why I believe her that she probably didn't know when she filmed the movie.
I have never done a lot of research on this, and actually okay, Ro, you brought it up earlier. I don't own any physical copies of this, but I am probably going to buy one. But apparently there is a Blu-ray / re-release on DVD that does have a commentary from like the director and her and somebody else. But like literally, I remember Googling it after we watched it, because I was like, this is so weird. Because, okay, so I just needed to like kind of sidebar for a second. I loved the American Psycho novel when I read it around this time, actually. So don't come after me. I didn't know what a scumbag Bret Easton Ellis was, because social media didn't exist at the time. I just had his insanely cool books. And I loved the movie of American Psycho. So,
Cancel Mike,
yes. But this thing happened, which I don't think a lot of people know about. I did it in probably my first email account, but before this came out, but after the American Psycho original movie, Bret Easton Ellis actually did a like email subscription list where if you signed up for it, he'd put out like every couple days, kind of like a pseudo sequel to the book. Like he wrote it. It was like, but it was like if you've ever seen the original movie, we mentioned Chloe earlier, our goddess Chloe Savini, her character Jean, and it's like emails like between the two of them, and it kind of like continues the story a little bit.
Oh,
but I don't think it's ever been published. And I tried Googling it a few years ago, and I like nobody seems to know about it, but that was like my first email address, and I remember going, "Oh my god, American Psycho! I gotta sign up for this." And it kind of sucks because there was sort of a sequel, but nobody knows about it, and it had nothing to do with this movie. And I just find that so fucking hilarious that there was actually kind of an idea in Bret Easton Ellis's head for a sequel. But then I did some Googling, and it turns out that this was some other movie that they already like started the gears on, that they literally just wrote that opening scene in, threw in 4 or 5 lines of narration, because it was just supposed to be about Mrs. killing people to get into Quantico, right? Like, and when you look at it, you can literally just take that and maybe add 5 minutes extra to it and cut the Patrick Bateman stuff out, and it would literally make 100% sense in its own universe.
Yeah, the original movie was called The Girl Who Wouldn't Die. I saw when I was looking up the research for it. That was like the working title of the script.
Yeah, so I believe that she got that script and like signed on, and then at some point during production they were like, "God damn, we got this fucking hot property and we're probably gonna lose it. We need to put something out so we can extend our rights for like 5 years or whatever." And we're like, boom. Here, whoever, some unpaid script doctor, add 3 pages at the beginning, and bam, you have your American Psycho 2.
Yep, I agree.
I will say though, like turning this on, I was bopping. This movie is so early 2000s, it hurts, and it hurts so good for me. So good.
It hurts. It's Patrick Bateman tying you to a chair and cutting you open. Hurts so good.
Yeah, like the soundtrack. I texted the guys last night and this morning. It's a bop. It's like, and it's not even like a bad one. Like Biff Naked, and
Biff Imogen Heap. Fucking Rilo Kiley. Like
there's a lot of banners, which is kind of funny because when you see the music. And then you're like, all right, like this is pretty hip for the time.
Yeah, it's really ahead of its time, and I feel like a lot of the artists on that soundtrack. I mean, Biff Naked was big in Canada at the time, but like I feel like she was huge in Canada, but like people in the US didn't really know her. But then everybody else on it, like Rilo Kiley and stuff, like I feel like, and Imogen Heap, that was right at the beginning of their careers. And I think actually the guy who directed it directed some Rilo Kiley videos. So I feel like that's why he got like in their good books and could use their music.
Yeah.
But like it, like literally when I watched this, I like burned my own soundtrack CD from Napster. And like it was, I knew Biff Naked obviously because I'm Canadian, and a cigarette emoji, but also like it was my first Imogen Heap, who went on to become like one of my favorite artists.
OC
like
season
adored
2.
her. OC, you're right? Like the pre-OC, I feel like it was before the OC. And like Emiliana Torini is in it. That album, that the song they use in the soundtrack, it was the first time I'd heard it. I burned off that album. And listen, y'all, don't judge. Us olds had to illegally burn stuff because there was no Spotify. YouTube didn't have any music on it. And when they did put music on it, Prince sued them and they took it down. Like, but like there was so much good stuff that I like. Several artists that like I made a lifelong love affair with came from this movie. So I just have to like thank you for bringing it up, bro, because the soundtrack to this movie, I know it's like some weird shitty Z-grade pseudo slasher movie, but like the soundtrack slaps so hard and it's like such a nostalgia thing to me, and it was very influential. I just need to put that out there.
At this point in time, I was exclusively listening to Christian music or Linkin Park, and neither of them were in the movie, so I mean it did nothing for me. So
that's fair.
Well, I was gonna say I was just impressed because Colton brought up it's directed by Morgan J. Freeman, and I'm just surprised that you can go from like the Shawshank Redemption to this and just really have your pulse on the kids.
That's one of my favorite Letterboxd reviews I saw was something like, "This is the best thing Morgan Freeman's ever done." Or something.
So I was gonna say, any confusion, it's not the Morgan Freeman that the entire world loves. This is the Morgan J. Freeman that a subsect of us really love. The creator of such mega shows as Teen Mom and 16 and Pregnant and Laguna Beach. I mean,
I never knew this.
Yeah,
so this a titan, he's a legend.
This guy's a huge MTV producer.
Yeah, I was like, this is, your mid to late 2000s, like, legendary shows.
Yeah.
Like your Teen Mom and your Laguna Beach. Think of all the spin-offs from Laguna Beach.
Yeah, really. And also directed an episode of Dawson's Creek.
Yes, which, by the way, this totally one of my notes is like, this is the most Dawson's Creek WB dialogue that I've ever heard.
Well, and I was going to say, once you bring that sensibility to the movie, like, I feel like I'm like, yeah, this kind of makes sense now. Like, when I watched this, I said to Exilia today, I'm like, this was most likely to die. This was a Cecily pick. This is like this is like a straight to DVD MTV slasher movie where we've got like, the one kind of up and coming it girl. We've got Shatner is like a star that like everyone will kind of recognize, even if you're not familiar.
Hasn't worked in 20 years, but still is such a huge cult figure that he's a draw.
And then I'm sure the most money they spent was probably just like packing the soundtrack.
Yeah,
with
the soundtrack, absolutely.
Music of the time. So, like I said, because I'm sure for a little bit we're going to definitely rag on this. But to me, like, that was kind of the charm of watching this. I was like, like I said, it was just so 2000s. I wasn't expecting anything. I was like, I can revel in 2002 Rowan, I guess. I can just imagine like I'm being transported back there. And the fashion. I don't know if it was good or bad. I might need to stay in 2002.
One of my notes was about the opening scene with the leather jacket and sunglasses, and I was like, they were literally just trying to make her look like Trinity from The Matrix. Like, they're like, who's the coolest, badass, like, brunette woman that you could think of? And it's like, Trinity. Like, let's just dress her like Trinity.
And there is nothing edgier than walking by someone having a smoke, grabbing the smoke from them, and then puffing it and throwing it out. With, like, whatever, she said some witty line, like, I thought you quit or something. But I will say, very interesting, pretty much, like, zero blood. No blood. We're going super PG MTV.
That's not quite true.
Well, okay.
There's the janitor. He has a mop shoved right through his head, and I was shocked. I was like, oh my god, there's gore in this movie? You remember that when the camera panned over the dumpster?
Right. The brief, they give us that little
pools
glimpse.
of blood at the beginning. The beginning is actually probably the most disturbing part because they don't show you what's happening, but he has the like little tools and is like bent over and it looks like he's going down on her, but you see the blood like kind of streaming across the floor, so it's like clearly he's doing something horrific to her. And I'm like, this is actually, I think, the most terrifying part of that whole movie. Like, I think it's the most like shocking part, and obviously this was done late in the game because they were like, fuck this, let's make this a whole other movie. But you're right, like it was very much, one of my notes was actually like, this could literally have been and it has the entire vibe of a really good made for TV movie from like the 90s.
Yeah.
A really good one? How about just any made for TV movie? Just
Girl,
it is one.
Made for TV movies are I'm a connoisseur. Tubi, bro brought it up. Tubi stepping up their game. Tubi has a really good, well, it actually is ever changing, so a lot of them are not available now, but like Tubi usually has a really good supply of like 90s, mid 90s, like made for TV, like NBC movies. And if you think this was bad, you need to watch one of those suckers. Like,
dude, I've seen Lifetime and Hallmark movies, and
no. This is not Lifetime and Hallmark. Like, well, we're talking like attempts at thriller TV movies. Like, literally, you don't even see someone get hit on the head. Like, it's like they won't show anything. And I was like, there was only like 2 pools of blood in this. There was not even anybody in like their underwear, I don't think. You know, you didn't see anybody like simulating sex. Like, I feel like there was probably swearing. I wish I had paid a bit more attention. There might be like 1 or 2 swears, but like literally it was a made for TV movie.
There's also the scene where it reveals the corpse and it reveals like how she stole this girl's identity and whatnot.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's kind of a horror effect, I guess. It's like this rotten corpse and like the dress bag with all the flies and whatnot. I'm like, how the hell would your roommate not notice that? But all right, let's push that aside. There was a point in this movie where I just stopped taking like logic notes because I was just like, it's not really this type of movie, like, you know, and where I was pointing out like, oh, the serial killer class, or I have like, messing up details of her and Brian's date isn't what you'd expect from such a smart protagonist, where like she doesn't remember that she borrowed a condom off her friend who's questioning if she got laid, but then she actually killed Brian and stuff like that. I'm like, this protagonist is really dumb for like believing that she's so smart. But at a certain point I was like, let's just ignore it.
I will say, I was going to say logic and kill wise, I really, the scene kind of, I guess one of our first kills by her, where she kills the character, Gertie, the receptionist or whatever at the university. Yeah. I really loved, I got really concerned. This is a side note. I got really concerned because, like I said, I can't remember if I saw this movie or not. And I was like, holy shit. Are we actually going to microwave a cat in this movie?
I was like, I knew you were going to bring that up. I knew it. I was like, this cat, not actually getting microwaved, but like the 2 seconds where you think it's going to happen, I was like, Rowan's going to bring this up.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit. Because I was like, are we really going to, is this movie just going to go there that we're just going to microwave a cat? And then I was like, ugh, like maybe this is a little rougher than I thought. Now, of course, the cat, you know, spoiler alert, the cat gets saved. It's okay, guys. We can all be happy. But I love that when she attacks Gertie and like hits her, and then we get the cut scene where the microwave was actually open, but then it cuts and the microwave's closed only so we can only see the reflection. Like it's like a continuity error just for this shot. But my favorite thing is, as she comes down with the blow, the blood is already on the microwave. Like Like, and I loved it. I was like, I love that they just didn't care. They're like, should we wait and spurt the blood when she hits her? He's like, nah, just put it on now. Don't worry about it. And I was just like, this is awesome.
It's also especially artistic because Rachel is like looking at a reflection of herself in the like Employee of the Month award or whatever in the main office, and then they mirror that shot with the receptionist when she's dying with her own reflection in whatever she's looking at. I'm like, all right, this is cinema. This is art, baby. Like, you know.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I'm still trying to decide whether I thought it was a good kill count or not. I think it had more kills than I thought it was gonna have. I figured this would be like a 2-kill movie, and then they off some people. I did enjoy the I can't think of his name, but the psychiatrist or whatever, the psychologist.
Dr. Daniels or something, I think. Yeah.
Dr. Daniels.
Or it was Daniel something. I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway, like possibly the dumbest character in movies of all time.
Oh, he's dumb as a stump. Yeah.
I'm not really sure how he's practicing, but just like bizarre, immediately just, breaking doctor-patient confidentiality. No cares. Just
it's
bizarre.
just so funny that you brought up the like kill count because it is like weirdly high. But one of the things that I was thinking of, which goes back to my comparison to like a made-for-TV movie, was how I was watching it and going, it's so weird the way that it's edited. I was like wondering if there was a lot more to it initially in terms of like a bit more extreme and like gore and stuff, because I'm thinking about how like I don't want to say like post 9/11 because that sounds so fucking stupid and broad in general, but like you can kind of see like if you look at the way movies were received and like edited and stuff in those like say 4 or 5 couple of years, all the backlash. Like American Psycho got released in Canada in an uncut version, the first one, but was trimmed like really weirdly in the States, but only like 2 little spots where like you might notice a like difference. And then I remember like Eyes Wide Shut, had that like weird like a blur out the tits or whatever in America, but didn't in Canada. And then I felt like there was a few years where movies were like really, really afraid to like have anything in it that might get like held up at the censorship stage. And I feel like I'm not trying to give this more credit for being more extreme, but I'm wondering if there was more to it that was in the script that they didn't film, or that they filmed and said, fuck it, we're cutting it out because we know that it's going to get hacked up anyway. And I don't know. I'm just wondering aloud.
You're just giving this movie more credit.
I'm using it as a springboard to wonder about like the general state of like releasing a horror movie in the early 2000s, because I feel like that was like kind of it was a very conservative period for like art in general. So I'm just wondering, like, because I feel like a lot of movies I watched at the time really didn't show too much in the way of like on-screen gore, but I don't know if I'm looking back with like
I wonder if
nostalgia tinted glasses.
If you actually looked back statistically and like looked at like let's say 2002, 2003, if like movies would be edited differently for gore or not, I wouldn't know off the top of my head. I feel like there were some like, pretty extreme movies that released around there. Like, wasn't Saw 2003 or 2004?
Yeah, it was around there.
And then, well, obviously Hostel's a little bit later. That's like 2005. But you could be right. Maybe there's a couple of years there early. But
especially with like a low budget movie, they might have been like we don't have the clout to like push the envelope too much, so we're gonna like just preemptively kind of like shut down any like criticism from the censors. But also I remember like years ago when I was stoned, I watched that movie, I can't remember what it's called, This Film Is Not Yet Rated or whatever, about like the MPAA. Yeah. And so sometimes I think of that and like when I'm looking at movies that are like cut weird or like should have more violence than they do, and I'm like, I wonder if this was like a decision that was made or whatever. So that was just like a train of thought that I was on while I was watching this, and I'm like, I know that obviously this was also like had a $20 budget, so that is a huge impact on it, but like a little bit of fake blood, you could go to the dollar store and get that. So
yeah,
I feel like they could have dumped blood all over the place in this and it would have been like a cult classic.
I do know one movie at the time that was edited due to 9/11, and it was Lilo and Stitch. And I don't know if you guys know this, but the third act of the movie originally had, I think it was like a jetliner flying through Oahu through like a bunch of skyscrapers and stuff. And the tension was all about it hitting one of the towers. And they had to completely like recut and kind of like animate it around mountains and stuff instead. And that's like what I remember to be like a kind of a funny one, because like this Disney movie, they had to re-edit the whole ending due to 9/11. It was interesting. I saw a video about that, but sadly there's not too many videos on if American Psycho 2 was edited for content or not due to 9/11.
I know.
So.
Maybe I should get together with a content creator and we should work on it.
There you go.
Anybody hit me up, DM me.
We need to start demanding that we need a release of that rated R Lilo and Stitch cut.
I didn't say rated R, but you know, a little bit riskier for sure.
So I was going to say, Mike, it's not a weird thought to have, because I also was thinking about it when I was watching it, and actually thinking about it on the format I watched it on, which was Tubi, which the free service, so it's got the commercials and stuff. I think it's very purposeful of how he cut the kills. I mean, like I said, we listed off what Morgan J. Freeman's credits and what he's known for, which is television.
Television, music videos, yeah.
And television aimed at kind of like pre-teen, teen.
Yeah, we're not talking like, you know, late night cable television. It's like literally stuff airing at 6 o'clock. Yeah.
To me, you know, I think he probably knew, you know, because as bad as, you know, someone might think this is, or, you know, something like 16 and Pregnant, like, I'm sure this guy kind of has a brain and a business connoisseur of what that age range is going to eat up. I mean, this guy continues to make shows on MTV that's popular. To me, I was kind of like, this guy obviously was like, all right, I'm going to like have this, it's going to go right to DVD, but I'm sure he was thinking, I can probably get this played on MTV. Like, I can get this on the channels and, you know, kind of just build up a hype with that age range of this movie that, like, really, there isn't that many horrifying or bad things that you wouldn't find in like some other kind of like gateway horror thing. It's just like maybe a little step above.
I just think once again, like, we're giving this movie too much credit. Like, if the guy wanted this movie to go direct to MTV, he probably could have. He didn't. He released it like direct to DVD, right? Like, that's the thing. I would agree with you guys if this was an MTV horror movie. Like, there were a bunch of them, so if it was one, I would agree with you guys that, like, yeah, of course they edited it just for it to be like, oh, a surprise, and then we fade to black and we go to a commercial. But that's not what he did, right? He released it on DVD, and I don't know, the guy had a career in television beforehand. He probably had connections if he wanted to get this released on TV, and he didn't. So I don't know.
We're tired of your negativity on this movie, Colton.
Come on, I got to ground it a little bit. We can't be talking about how American Psycho 2 is, you know.
Get with the Slay program on this.
One of the worst rated movies ever, and we're here talking about how, like, oh, I bet they didn't want it to turn out that way, or, you know, it wasn't supposed to be like this.
Listen, those are the best ones to talk about. They're the richest ones. They're the most fertile ones.
I agree that it makes for an interesting discussion. I just think Morgan J. Freeman isn't a genius of any sort. I think, you know, he made a shitty movie, and there you go. There it is.
I'm gonna agree, but I want to say I find it funny that there's this guy has like multiple ties back to Bret Easton Ellis, because he did this, you know, based on characters in a Bret Easton Ellis novel, and then he also did Teen Mom, and then Farrah Abrams did a sex tape with James Dean, who was in a movie that Bret Easton Ellis wrote the screenplay for in the mid-2000s. So look, there we go. There's this weird mesh of Bret Easton Ellis all over MTV and this guy's career and Teen Mom. Just throwing that out there. Conspiracy theorists, open up a new notebook.
I don't know what you can do with that, but yeah, go open up the notebook.
So my real question is this in Zack Snyder's favorite movies of all time? I saw my favorite piece of trivia was 3 people from this movie got casted into Dawn of the Dead.
Including, by the way, Lindy Booth, mini Scream Queen, low-key, from the 2000s.
I mean, obviously not, but I just like to think that Zack Snyder owns a lot of copies of this, and then he was just like, yeah, like, I gotta cast some of my favorite actors in my favorite movie, American Psycho 2.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised because, you know, most of Zack Snyder's movies are about on the same level as this one, so, you know.
Eye roll.
I'm not gonna agree nor disagree.
I heard you hate on him on every horror movie on Netflix. It's all good. I know we're really on the same side, so.
So let's talk about the twist. Because I'll be honest with you, like I said, as a first-time watcher, I did not see the twist coming, so...
You know what? This movie does the twist better than High Tension. It at least doesn't ruin the whole movie. I didn't see it coming. I was like, all right. I kind of shrugged. It was a twist that I was like, sure. All right, whatever. But it didn't ruin everything.
I need the think piece of Colton's American Psycho 2. It is better than High Tension.
I'm not rewatching either of those movies to write the essay or form the think piece, so you're going to have to keep waiting on that one.
The no thought piece is what that would be. The thoughtless piece.
Exactly, yeah.
That has to be a new genre of essay, by the way, the thoughtless piece.
We invented it.
Yeah.
I was just curious what you guys thought about the twist. Like, was there any kind of inkling towards it that you saw? Maybe I wasn't paying attention hard enough. I thought, like you said, Colton, like, I thought it was a more effective twist than some movies we have seen.
So we're talking about the stolen identity twist, right?
The stolen identity twist.
I was going to say, not the one that she's doing it that comes 15 minutes in the movie.
Yeah, okay. So obviously that's obvious that she's killing everybody.
Yeah.
All right, that is one twist, I guess. The second twist where she steals the identity, I did not see. The third twist where she's still alive and shows up at the book signing, I 100% saw coming, which I hope both of you guys did as well. Which also just why Dr.
I don't even
Daniels...
think they showed the car. They showed the car in a reflection. I'm like, please.
No. I think they show it and it's in a river and she's standing in the woods because it's the last shot of the movie.
Yeah,
and I'm just literally like,
movie,
how did they not turn their head and see her just standing there on the side of the creek, right? And then she looks at the camera and it looks like that little girl standing outside of the burning house meme. It looks
the meme,
just
yes,
like that.
yes,
it looks just like that. I think it's mirrored. I think she's on the wrong side, but it's perfect. I was like,
yes, because she's on the left side of the frame. You're right.
Yeah. It was perfect. I was like, yes, that's a great.
Oh my god,
shot.
Cinematic parallels. Okay, I've got to find that. I need to get a screenshot and we need to do that up.
Yeah, that needs to be the new girl with the burning background meme.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, but no, I didn't see it coming, Rowan, in terms of that. But also, it's kind of like a pointless twist in a way, right? It's not a pointless twist that undoes the rest of the movie.
It doesn't change the movie really in any way.
It makes her seem more intelligent than you thought she was, but she also just makes half a dozen to a dozen errors throughout the movie anyways. There's a part where she's critiquing Ted Bundy and kind of calling him out for how stupid he is. And I'm like, girl, you forgot you stole a condom last night. I don't know. She's not a genius by no means.
Yeah, no, you're so right though, because I was thinking the same thing. I was like, she literally walks up to dude in the library and just stabs him out in the open, right? With an ice pick. And I'm like, and again, that was it. I was like, you were literally sitting there shitting on Ted Bundy and them, right? And but saying how, this one was methodical and it was so thought out and blah, 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 and genius and versus crazy and all this. And I was like, girl, you're sloppy as shit. I was like, you learned nothing. You're literally saying this is your life since you were 12 years old. And you learned goddamn nothing from your 10 years or whatever of studying these serial killers. You learned nothing. But then I think you're right. That is sort of an attempt to patch that up a little bit.
Yeah, make her seem more intelligent. But I was gonna say this movie has an issue with object permanence. You know how where kids, when you move the object out of their vision, they no longer remember
they forget about it. Yeah.
This movie just keeps forgetting that. She has a body count of 10 people, and for somehow she just keeps wandering around out in the open. She drags a corpse out of her dorm downstairs and out into the open. You got the ice pick one. You got There's so many
The
kills. I
corpse
think
in
she
the
kills a
car.
cop at one point when she's just driving by. I think when he's like suspicious or something, like he hops out and I don't know. This movie's strange. It's like whenever the killer or whenever the corpse leaves the screen, it's just like, yep, it's out of the script.
Gone.
It's like
Yep,
out of the
it's gone.
universe. Yeah, it disappeared.
Until a moment 10 minutes down the road when it needs to be remembered to move the plot forward or whatever.
Or I think it's also like in the montage where she stole the identity. I think it cuts back to a couple of them to show like,
it does,
oh,
yeah,
she
yeah.
did hide this one in the bushes over here or whatever, right? It's just like, oh shit, we do have to deal with all these corpses, you know? They scramble to figure out how they hid them. Yeah, it's genius.
But we're gonna show it in black and white so that it,
Yeah.
so you don't think you're
obscures
right
any
about
issues.
it.
Yeah,
exactly.
I was gonna say, what do you guys think about the movie score? Because you guys loved its licensed music, but did you guys notice like the polka music that was playing for the whole movie?
Okay, so here's my thoughts. I thought it was so cornball and awful, but it was so early 2000s, like literally one guy banging it out in like 4 or 5 days for like $1,000 or something. It was so awful, but like I kind of loved it because it was the same score that they used in every fucking like, whatever $2,000 budget direct-to-video movie for like 10 years. And to me, it's like, this is so awful, but it also really grounds it in that time period.
It was like a clown show or a circus. It was like I
called it jaunty in my notes.
Yeah,
but I think that was even giving it a little bit too much credit.
Oh man, it was something.
Like I would literally, if this was on Spotify, I would put it on a playlist, honestly.
No,
I'm not gonna lie. I actually forgot, and I will be going on Spotify momentarily and seeing if it's on there.
I thought it was a vibe. Because like you said, Mike, like it just reminded me of just these low budget direct to video early 2000s. I think about like shitty direct to video horror movies that I buy at Walmart now that try so
in
hard
2022, yeah,
that just try so hard to have like some ominous score when it's like, don't you guys know you could just be using this one polka song that everyone else used and it's perfectly okay.
Yeah, it's like the music from I gotta say, this is a weird connection, but like 1 or 2 times it made me think of like the kind of brilliant score from the Problem Child movies, if you remember those. It's like that is very polka music, right? So I was like thinking this is kind of like the poor man's version of like trying to marry a Thriller score to the Problem Child score, because it had that weird, it's like a thriller and comedy at the same time. And I'm like, I feel like because of that, it was having an identity crisis in the score too.
I was going to say, with the twist, I thought it was just a very potent commentary on the university system, because I was thinking, I was like, man, no one's noticed that this isn't the girl. And then I just thought about all my years in university, and I'm like, yeah, they definitely would never notice this. The university would notice this like 15 years later in their records or something.
I have to tell you a very quick anecdote that kind of goes with that, and it makes me sound awful, but like I feel like sometimes your fellow students also would not like have a clue, because I had a couple of girls in a bunch of my classes over the course of like probably 3 years, and I could never tell them apart or remember their names, and I always thought that one was the other, and I knew them all, so I could say hi, how are you, and like see them in the university center like eating fries and stuff, but we would just call them Crunchy Granola number 1, Crunchy Granola number 2, and Crunchy Granola number 3, because they all had like dreads or like, kind of like dressed like hippies. But I like, honestly, if somebody killed one of them and took their identity, I would just be like, oh my god, I think that's one of the Crunchy Granolas, hey,
But come on, if Mila Kunis killed them and took
okay,
their identity,
fair.
you would know
I
it's
will
not
give you
Crunchy
that.
Granola number 3,
Yeah.
right? Like, can we?
Oh my god, I feel like I've exposed myself too much. Cut it out. No, I'm kidding.
Can we talk about how that waiter just keeps steak knives in his pockets at all times?
He's like, voila!
Here you
I'm
go,
like,
mademoiselle.
girl, okay.
Yeah.
But also, one of my notes was that poor fucking waiter.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He was there every time, and he was like, it's my first day, and I'm like, oh, you poor fucking thing. You got these people talking about someone hanging themselves on like your 3rd day there.
Yeah. Brutal.
I just want to know if it's the restaurant that has the policy that you have to talk in a terrible fake French accent.
I think that is part of it. Yeah, they were all like, "Oh, parlez-vous le français?" Like, it's
okay,
awful.
but that's so funny because that was one of the reasons why I said that poor waiter, because I got the feeling, I could be wrong, that like the bumpkin mother was like, you know, oh, I'm in a French restaurant, I'm fancy, I have to try to speak French, and he's like, oh god, another one of these stupid bitches that's never been to a French restaurant. I need to put on like my, you know, fake French, like, oh, oui, madame, you know. I thought that was actually kind of funny, even if it was unintentional, which it probably was. But that's how I read all of his scenes, and I was like, he is just literally going home and like writing in his diary, like, I am done with my life. I am never gonna move to New York and be an actor. I'm stuck here in like Quantico Town. Like,
I'm not gonna lie, those parents gave me life. I was like, this is acting job of the century.
The dad was always like, I just need to shit.
Yeah. I just like how they 100% knew what kind of movie they were in, what like the budget of this movie was.
And they ate it. They ate it.
Oh, and they were just like, we are going to be as hokey as possible. Like, we're going to act like we're on like some Nickelodeon TV show. And it was just, I just lived for it. Absolutely lived for it.
Yeah, they were probably one of my favorite parts of this movie. Thank you for bringing it up.
There was some other good acting going on by Shatner when he finds his lover when she hanged herself, or, you know, obviously it was staged.
Yeah.
Oh my god, in that scene, I was cracking up laughing, which I shouldn't have been laughing, but he was very much like a, oh my, oh, and he was like stumbling around, and he just kept stumbling. Like, he just kept stumbling, banging into shit and trying to like turn around. He was just like so flustered that it like, it was like unintentional physical comedy where he was like, I can tell like he did one take and the director was like, holy fuck, like that looked terrible, but it's just Shatner and he thought he nailed
You don't
it, right?
tell Shatner to do another take, right?
No, Shatner was like, no, I killed it. It was the best performance. Like, I will be getting my Oscar next year. Like, you know, 100%.
Yeah. He's like, I got 10 hours left, like, in your budget. Like,
yeah. They wanted to make sure they set up that, you know, he stumbles around. So when he stumbles out of that window, you're like, oh,
there we go. Talk about the credit. Mm-hmm.
And I was going to say, the 10-hour comment's probably pretty true. I read that they shot this in 20 days.
Okay, yes, there you go. Yeah, it's like, they're like, okay, this is the last day. Pretend like the room is dark. Like, just go at it.
I will say, I was surprised that Rachel gave up on, like, that, you know, right before Shatner has his tumble out the window. She tries to go with the maneuver of, like, tricking him, where, like, trying to convince him that they're the ones that we're dating.
Yeah.
But she, like, drops that plan within, like, 20 seconds instead
it was
of
very
sticking
much
with it.
Ginny pretending to be Jason's mom in Friday the 13th Part 2. That's the vibe I was getting, and they're like, oh my god, they're really trying to psychologize this. Like, I love it. Like, are they gonna do, like, some mind twist at the end? And, like, no.
But this goes to, like, Colton's point, is that, like, she's supposed to be super smart. So I'm like, okay, she's gonna do this, and you're just gonna, he's on pills, he's drinking, so this whole scene's gonna be her being like, hey, like, we've been together this whole time. But no, he's like, no, I don't remember that. And she's like, oh yeah, you're right. I'm
the jig is up.
The jig's up.
Damn it.
We gotta go to something else. And yeah, just very, very panicked for diagnosis of a sociopath.
The other moment in the movie where there was a bit of panic was when the police are chasing her, and it's like such a strange police chase, and they're like, hey, pull up alongside her, and they pull up alongside, and they just stick the gun out the window and start firing it straight up in the air. Oh my god, I was cracking up laughing.
They're like, maybe she doesn't realize we want her to pull over.
I was just like, man, you guys could have easily pit maneuvered. You could have got ahead. You could have did anything, but he's just like, hey, pull over, and firing his gun up in the air like it's, I don't know, Looney Tunes or some shit.
Looney Tunes, yeah, exactly.
Oh god, the movie is just like so dumb. I was laughing at it so much, but
exactly, this is its charm right here. It's like, fuck.
I was gonna say, one of the cops too, played by Boyd Banks, who's in like everything. I was like, I think this is the only other guy I recognize. He's in like Jason X, like black sheep, ladies man, a lot of the like Saturday Night Live movies, like
Wow, what a
Superstar,
legend.
just character actor, legend. So I don't know. Have you guys talked everything you want to talk about this?
I've exhausted my notes. I just had to talk about the cop.
I don't want to spoil it all for you listeners. I want you to go buy a copy of this. Let's support the movement so that we can get the re-release, so we can get Mike's quote on the cover.
Yes, we need a Scream Factory or like a, I don't know, whatever. Who puts out Lionsgate stuff? I don't even know. Do they have their own? We needed to move to another label. It's been 20 years. Maybe the like contract has run out. I don't know. But I just wanted to say that one of my favorite moments was that like I was looking at this, and that moment in, speaking of the like Shatner Kunis like office moment, like when she comes up behind him and is like massaging his shoulders, I was just looking at this going, what other fucking Z budget movie are you gonna watch Mila Kunis just massaging William Shatner's shoulders in this like pseudo fancy dress? Like I was just like, this is so bizarre of a moment. Like maybe back then it wasn't as weird, but I was just like watching it and going, 2002 was fucking weird, man. Like it was just weird.
I feel like Shatner has a few copies of these in his office. He has like about a good 10 to 20 copies of this movie. I'd say he's very proud of it. Just how much of a study he is in this movie.
I think that's another quote for the cover. Just 2002, what a trip.
True.
Well, let's land the plane and we will get to rating this bad boy. So if you are new to the program, what an episode to be new to the program. Congratulations, welcome. You're our kind of people. Our rating system is nay, okay, yay, or slay. You guys know what you gotta do. You have to rate this the highest as possible. Colton, what's your rating?
It's an A. I mean, it was more fun, I guess, talking it out with you guys probably than I had watching it.
Yeah.
I did laugh at it a lot. I wouldn't say that it's like boring. You know, there is probably a little bit of a dip in the middle where it slows down for 20 minutes or so. But, you know, it wasn't torture. We've definitely reviewed other things that I've liked less than this. But yeah, it's still going to be an A from me. I can't say that this is a good movie. So yeah, it's an A. What about you, Rowan?
I'm going to go to an okay. I had fun.
Oh,
I had fun. Yeah, I can't give it an A. I can't do it. I'm going to give it an okay. I'm definitely going to buy a Blu-ray copy. And this to me is like just fun. This is like Troll 2 fun. Just have some drinks.
Troll 2 is a fucking masterpiece. How dare you?
I had a good time with it. It was actually far better than I thought it would be. And it's worth just the music alone. Just, it's a bop to just put on when you're not paying attention. So, okay for me. Mike, what are you going to give it?
So I'm about to go on a jag. So, I'm giving it a nay, right? But
thank you, Mike.
But so yes, Colton, like we're definitely in agreement on that. But and listen, this was my pick, but it's a qualified nay, and so qualified nay means that I know that it's awful garbage. That was somehow made more awful by the like addition to the script to tie it into another movie. I feel like it might have been slightly more bearable if they had just done it on its own terms instead of trying to like shoehorn it into what was supposed to be the start of a franchise, I'm assuming. But also because I find it very charming and adorable, and I did not mind rewatching it, and I won't mind rewatching it again for multiple reasons. Mila, obviously, she's very charming. Who doesn't love watching a movie with her in it or a TV show? Like,
true. Yeah.
She's beautiful, she's charming, she's like adorable, she just like oozes like charm and charisma no matter what. You can't take your eyes off of her. The soundtrack, obviously, we've already talked about it. It's way better than it has any right to be and was personally influential. So I understand that like maybe people are like, Imogen Heap from her very first album, which sounds nothing like any of the rest of her music. But listen, it got me into her, so I'm into it. And I love its sense of like whimsy. You know, like it's just, that weird, like, I feel like there's no other point in time. I feel like in the early 2000s was like when people were really trying to like marry horror and comedy and like put these weird tones smushed together in a movie. So I kind of like love that about it. I love that it has that whimsical kind of like polka, you know, like what the fuck is going on here vibe. Like they don't know what they're doing. And also lastly, because I think that if they had given this a bit more of a budget, that it could have been a real contender for like a solid cult classic. Like I feel like it's a cult classic right now, like very obscure. But like I feel like if this had had a better budget and like a little bit better visuals and like camera work and stuff, that it could have really like immediately found a like audience of nerds instead of just slipping into obscurity, which it does. You know, like I feel like it still would have been an awful movie, but like if it was an awful movie that like had more like aesthetic sheen, that it might have like got a little bit more of a foothold amongst people that like bad movies instead of just dying. So that's what I'm saying. That's my qualified nay. Like it's garbage, but I love it and I'll keep watching it. And Ro just reminded me that I need to order a Blu-ray of it. But I'm certainly not going to tell anybody to watch it. Ever. Unless they're like a really big Mila Kunis fan and like they've probably seen some worse things than this. So
well, we told you what we think, so we asked you what you think, and we actually got a response. Came in the nick of time. So I say the nick of time. I just looked. It came in like 9 hours ago. So from Andrewy Drew on Instagram.
What a name.
He said, also shout out fellow Newfoundlander. He said, a crash course in camp. Is it a sly parody of the source material or just bad? 5 stars.
But see, and here's the thing, and that's why I love it, because it's obviously trash, but it is so campy that I've been questioning it this whole, like Colton keeps saying, I'm giving it too much credit, but it's because it's so campy that you always have that, like, you're pulling at threads with camp, and you're like, am I pulling this from, like, a beautiful sweater? Or just, you know, something that's in a garbage heap? Who knows? Both, maybe, at the same time.
Yeah, I'll save the discussion on camp for another time, but believe it or not, I don't think I'm a huge fan of campy movies, but I'm sure we'll pick another one at some point.
Yeah, no, we'll do a full camp episode sometime and we can prep.
Exactly, yeah.
So sadly, you know, I checked the answering machine. We still have one. We're in 2002. So we've got the cassette tape in the answering machine. Maybe they went digital by then, I don't know. But it's empty. No one wanted to voice their opinions this week on American Psycho 2. Hopefully, we'll get lots called next episode because everyone went out and bought the Blu-ray. We created a movement. That's the whole idea with this episode. But Colton, why don't you tell them where they can call if they want to talk about American Psycho 2?
Yeah, so if you want to leave us a voicemail sometime, you can call 1-902-418-8620. Or you can fire your message to itslayspodcast@gmail.com, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, I mean, if you're not already, be sure to follow us on all of our social medias at itslayspodcast. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Letterboxd, Slasher. Basically, wherever there is a social media, you can probably find us at itslayspodcast. And Rowan, plug the playlist.
So yeah, if you like music from the movies we review or just music from horror movies in general, on Spotify, you can go to the It Slays Podcast Horrific Playlist, or you can just click in any of our socials on the link tree, and we've got a link to it right there. And yeah, follow, and we update it and put music that we like from the stuff we review, and just other stuff that we're like, hey, you gotta add this, add some Biff Naked. I don't know if we'll have any Christian rock or anything for Colton, but
damn,
we gotta put something in there to hook 2002 him.
That's right.
Obviously.
We need to find a horror movie with Linkin Park featured in it, and then I'll be all on board. That'll be a slay for sure.
Okay, we should do a Letterboxd. Horror movies with Linkin Park in them, and horror movies where William Shatner falls out a window. Coming soon to It Slays Podcast Letterboxd.
It would be higher than a slay if you can include both those things in one movie. Him falling out the window while Linkin Park plays.
While Linkin Park is playing?
Oh
Holy
my
shit.
God. Okay,
yeah,
now
that's
this is
iconic.
It's, yeah.
We might just have to make
And
our own
okay,
movie.
also if you
Might have to.
can make an edit of that happening from scenes in this movie, Rowan will send you a little gift.
I 100% would. 100% I would do that.
So get on it. Anybody with editing skills, Linkin Park, falling out the window. Yeah.
I love it.
All that is left is to announce our upcoming episode. And it fell on Colton, this new episode. What have you picked?
Yeah, I completely forgot that was my choice before we started recording this. But yeah, our next movie we're going to be reviewing is Takashi Miike's God, I butchered his name. Takashi Miike, Audition from 1999.
Very similar wheelhouses as this episode, so...
Well, it's a pre-9/11 movie, so we can't give it the benefit of a doubt. And if it's not good, we can't just, say, oh, it was due to 9/11 and it was re-edited, so...
So yeah, make sure to get your eyeballs on Audition, double feature it with American Psycho 2. I'm sure they pair nicely next to each other. But that is everything for this episode. Thank you for all the support. As always, I am Rowan.
Bye, it's Mike.
And I'm Colton.
See you later.
We're going to expand our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store. Back where it says horror videos and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
From the prime time, yes.
On with the new fletch.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
We've got to return some videotapes.